Good evening and welcome to Toxic Masculinity, where three toxically masculine men, especially Kurt leaning towards the camera for some reason. What? You guys know we're starting. This happened yesterday the same. Jason just like disappeared from the screen. Like,
hey, mine was
I'm
a
like,
joke.
all right, we're starting, guys. We're starting. And then I put the music on and I'm like, go. And then for some reason they have to do something. I don't know.
I changed
They
my
gotta
mind
piss
about
off.
the fan. I was getting chilly, but now I'm thinking without it on, I'm going to start sweating under the lights. So
Wow, this is good
How
TV
much
right here.
how much more toxic masculinity can you get than a bald head in front of the camera?
Accurate. I don't know why Kurt has so much headroom. That's a little bit unsettling.
because, well, should I explain it?
No,
I can change it. Okay. Leave it as a
fine.
mystery.
We're good. We're good to
it's
go.
for me
We're
to
good to go. Let's
know
talk
and for
about
you-
something.
For me to know and for you to mock, apparently.
Yes. let me just say that on some personal news, I've had a very minor injury. I think I strained a muscle whilst doing the ancient art of Muay Thai.
When did you
And
get
now I
muscles?
can't raise my arm up above my head. I mean, I can, but it's really painful. So fortunately, my sister's a chiropractor, and she's giving me some like PT advice what to do. So I'm gonna do some hot and cold therapy. I'm gonna do some like exercises against the wall with my arm. Hopefully, it'll get back to 100% in a couple of days, and I can start punching the mitts again. That's really unfortunately. GI Jose jumps in with a nice little comment. It's not a super chat, but I'm gonna read it anyway. Just because I've been giving Kurt some crap here. Oh, not that one. That one. It says Kurt is a manly name.
Yes. Picked it myself.
Dale Hendrickson says that a cure for my minor strain in my shoulder is to just stop doing Muay Thai. Not going to happen, pal. I'm toxic, remember? Okay. Dale Hendrickson says, beep, beep, truck driver, keep me entertained, please. You will be entertained because today we've got some amazing stories. And also, we are all identifying as male models today. Isn't that right, gentlemen?
Well, not any longer.
If you
My
don't-
confidence is shot at this point.
If you don't agree, you're a bigot. You're a vicious bigot. And I will be calling the police or something. All right. So, Jason, why don't we get going? Unless you guys got news. Kurt, you got any personal news you want to lay on us?
Not that's fit to share with the general public.
Oh, good God.
Oh.
Yeah, please keep it to
Well,
yourself.
Yeah. I have some
That's what all the
news,
women say.
I have news to tell the audience. I'm pretty under the weather today. So
He is.
please
Yes,
forgive
true.
me if I'm sniffing, but I'm heavily medicated. So if I say something that's kind of controversial, it wasn't me. Okay.
Yeah. Jason might say something. Jason might say something interesting for a change, but it's just the medication talking. They'll get used to it.
Right.
All right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
let's
So
get
I'm the
into
one in
it.
perfect health. Oh, we're in a bad situation this show, guys. If you just tuned out now, we wouldn't hold it against you.
Well, so let's see. I'm going to be on Newsmax on Sunday, so check that out if you watch Gorka's show Sundays on Newsmax. I'll be on there. That's going to be a bit of fun. And tomorrow on Friday, we've got a great episode of Make Movies Great Again. We talk about the original. It's not the original, but the 1932 Tarzan the Ape Man, and that's a great movie. I think those old movies, because like if you watch Tarzan the Ape Man, the elephants have like these fake ears, like they're obvious. Why would you do that? And I'm watching the movie, I realize it's because they had like Indian elephants from India, which have much smaller ears than the African elephants, but they're supposed to be in Africa. So then they put these big fake ears, which I assume in the 30s nobody noticed. But it looks absolutely ridiculous. Sonic Blue Strat says, shout out to the fellow Cuban, represent. That's quite good. That's for Jason. But some of the stuff looked ridiculous.
Thanks for clarifying that, Chris.
Well, I don't think everybody knows. But some of the stuff looked ridiculous. I look Cuban-ish. I could be Cuban.
Yeah. You look more Cuban than me.
I think so. Probably, yeah. But yeah, some of the apes. What was weird was that they would get these chimpanzees, real chimpanzees in the movie, but then they also had people dressed up as chimpanzees. So you had this at the same time, like on screen together. So it was like very obvious. Like, it was really weird.
It's been years since I've seen it, but it was a great movie.
And then they would intercut footage of real crocodiles with these like paper mache crocodiles, and like some of it was like a little jarring, you know, from our modern sensibilities. But if you can just like think of it like an old movie, it is absolutely amazing from beginning to end. It's just so much fun. A lot of these old movies are really great, and I think that it's sad that we kind of forgot about a lot of them.
Yeah, especially the black and white ones. There's a lot of people, younger folks, that'll be like, "Oh, it's black and white. That's like so old. It must be like antiquated. Nothing of value to see here." But
now, if it's
like The Thin Man.
Sorry. Now I would disagree. Now, if it's black and white, you should watch it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, but like it's not just young people today. Like I think even when we were in high school or something, it was the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Well,
obviously when we grew
70s,
up, in the 70s probably, and maybe even in the 50s, people would be like, "Oh, black and white. Nah.
Yeah.
We want that Elvis Presley color pictures."
You know when I realized like black and white movies and old movies had value? I watched this movie called Indemnity, something like that.
Double Indemnity.
Double Indemnity, yeah. And I was like, wow, if every movie like this from back then is this good, I'm gonna be stuck on it. And then that's what got me into like Citizen Kane and Casablanca and a whole bunch of these, even the
you know
low
what's
budget.
funny about that? I don't really like Double Indemnity in terms of like the entire span of classic films, and I really hate Citizen Kane. So we may have to get into like an argument about that one.
I look at these movies in a cinematic way, like the quality, the story, the way they filmed it.
I don't.
I mean,
yeah, he looks through this through the lens of an artist. You wouldn't understand, you peasant.
Yeah, clearly I wouldn't.
You do your little YouTube show, you know, like you have to see it as a filmmaker would.
Yeah. I just is the actor handsome? No, screw this. That's my only. I have one criterion.
Wait, okay.
Is the actor hot?
Why don't you like Citizen Kane? I know it's a deep question, but a quick summarize it quickly.
Yeah, it's a copy of a better movie called The Great Ziegfeld, and if you've seen The Great Ziegfeld, you know it's 1,000 times better than Citizen Kane, and it has a really cool twist at the end that I don't think is good enough to redeem the otherwise annoying and boring film. If you watch The Great Ziegfeld, it is a phenomenal movie. Yeah. The ending is just the guy dies because it's his life story, right? And it's a true story, the guy's life story. But if you watch Citizen Kane, it's a sort of fictionalized account of Hearst, I forget his name, William Randolph Hearst.
Yeah.
It's a fictionalized account of his life.
Yeah.
And if you watch to the end of the movie, they throw in this like really interesting twist, which I love, and it's a great, great thing to think about, and but I think the problem with like these kind of films is the movie The Great Ziegfeld was hugely successful, and the movie Citizen Kane was not really successful. And so I think that critics don't really like the movies that the public likes, because they go, if I like the movie the public likes, then I have the same taste as the public. Yeah. So I want to distinguish myself. I'm not saying Citizen Kane has no value. I see the value in it. I just find it annoying that critics are like, no, that's not the good movie. This is the good movie. And it's like,
I agree with you, but you can't both movies are great. I agree with you. But you can't put.
But nobody remembers The Great Ziegfeld because critics are all like, this movie. Nobody needs to watch this. Everybody's seen it. This is the movie everybody should see. So now everybody's seen Citizen Kane, and nobody has seen The Great Ziegfeld, which I think is a shame because Great Ziegfeld is actually a phenomenal film. And
thank God.
The thing about now
where.
Go ahead, Kurt. Go ahead.
I say you guys fight. Fist fight. The winner gets to talk.
Okay, so what I was gonna say was Orson Welles is such a great talent. Like, I love the man. Like, you see his interviews and the stuff he says is just on point, just genius. And
he's a smart guy, but he's a little overrated. I think Hitchcock is better.
His filmmaking. His filmmaking was amazing.
I'm a bigger
brought
fan
in
of Hitch.
the low shot. Come on. I'm
Well,
sorry,
okay,
Kurt.
yeah.
Go
There's
ahead.
this famous shot where he digs up the floorboards to get a very low shot.
That's
We're
not
all
the
taught
only
that in
shot,
film
though.
school.
There's so many.
I've just
shots.
never been that impressed with the low shot. He had a good cinematographer he's working with, and they developed together. They developed some cool stuff.
Yes. Okay.
But that wasn't him. That was his cinematographer.
Uh-huh.
I was just going to
Oh,
say.
Anyway, this is
speaking of Hitchcock. The other movie that made me love old movies was what was it? Rope. Have you guys seen Rope? It's Rope, right?
It's
I
my
believe
least
Rope.
favorite Hitchcock movie. Man, Jason,
Whoa.
you and I are
my
finding
God.
Rope
Chris is just gonna hate everything that I like, you know.
This should be
You know
the
what I
entire
love?
show. Forget about all the articles, all the current events, all the news stories. It'll just be us talking about film the whole time, and we can get the subscribers count down to 0.
The best ever Hitchcock film, in my opinion, is probably 39 Steps. But my favorite, I think,
Lifeboat.
is
Lifeboat. Lifeboat. That's what it is, right?
Is that
Where's
even a
the
film?
people in the
it
life?
is.
Oh, that
It
one.
is,
Come
yeah.
on.
No,
It's,
No, Chris.
I've not seen that one.
Jason,
I've not seen
Jason,
it. I've not seen it.
Jason, it's double Lifeboat. Get it right.
That's what it is. Double Lifeboat.
No, I'm just teasing.
Thank you for interrupting me with a terrible guess. No, it is. It's a film called The Lady Vanishes, which I don't know if you've seen this movie, but it is literally one of the best films of all time. Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay. I'm talking about movies. Everybody's kind of getting bored and annoyed. We're going to lose all of our
Democrat
viewers.
policy. The Lady Vanishes. They were trying to erase women all the way back in the 30s. That's crazy.
True.
That's an awful joke. Oh my gosh. We should have like an awful
That's why
joke
I'm
sound
here.
effect. An awful joke sound. Yeah, I got a weird cold as well. It's not really a cold.
It's me talking.
I was drinking some water the other day and I like breathed it in, and now I feel like I've got pneumonia. It's like horrible. It's like been aggravating for like 2 days. All right. Let's get on to the first news story. Enough nonsense. We got, we're losing viewers rapidly, so we better get
Enough
to the
nonsense.
news.
Should I just sign out entirely? That's going to be the rule of the day.
Oh,
Please, go
Urga 2016 says that they've gotten hooked by us three. Well, I hope we've hooked a few other people in. And if not, we're going to talk about the news, so at least you'll be educated about something.
Tell your friends and family.
Oh, great.
Jason, what do we got up first?
The story is, the news article is Joe Biden to anti-Israel protesters. You have failed. Have not forced me to reconsider policies. So President Joe Biden said Thursday that protests at college campuses across the country have not caused him to reconsider his policies in the Middle East.
Right. Let me play this. This is
pretty stunning and amazing.
Quiet. So we got to be quiet to listen to it. You probably won't hear it, but let's just play it.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, have the protests forced you to reconsider any of the policies with regard to the region?
No.
So that's the big story, right? So this reporter asks him, have the protests caused you to rethink your policies in the region, in Israel and Palestine and Gaza and that? And he says, no. And let me just throw out real quick the reason that I love this. Because as the Democrats, we've talked about this before on the show, but we'll just go over it quickly. Let's get rid of his ugly face, shall we?
Yes, please. Thank you.
The Democrats sort of like indoctrinated a couple of generations of college students to hate Israel and to love Palestine, right? To think that Israel is the oppressors and Palestine are the victims. And the reason is because, and I am 100% convinced this is true. The comments you don't agree, you can go ahead and send us a super chat and I'll respond. But I really think that it's because the Jews in Israel look essentially white and the Palestinians are vaguely brown. This is how I think of it. And they're like, oh, these people with more primitive weapons who are more brown, like the color of the earth, like the color of wheat bread. You know what's better for you than white rice? Brown rice. You know what's better for you than white people? Brown people. This is how the left thinks. This is how dumb they are. Really, for real. This is what I think that their idiotic mindset is. Because if you go back to the French philosopher, I forget his name, who came up with this idea of the noble savage. The idea was like, it doesn't matter how like
Camus.
sexually depraved, huh?
Camus.
No, I don't think so. It doesn't matter how sexually depraved these primitive tribes are. It doesn't matter how violent they are. They are acting more honestly on their emotions, and therefore they are more noble creatures than us, you know, so-called sophisticated, civilized people. Yeah. But I do think that it's better to live in a civilization where you're not afraid that if you mildly irritate your neighbor, he'll murder you. You know what I mean? Like we have some laws, we have some ideas that are, you know, that maybe allow people to like live in peace, and we can prosper, and we can, you know, we're not just acting on our emotions like animals. But there was this philosophical idea for a long time that, oh, actually more primitive tribes, more primitive peoples, primitive cultures, they're better than ours because they're more natural. They're more impulsive. They're more closer to nature. They're more the way human beings should be. They're more animalistic, and therefore they're better.
Yeah.
And
it's like
I
saying
think
that
the left...
wolves are better than dogs. Don't get a dog.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly. Yep. And I think that the left has taken this, and they never have switched that idea off. They've believed that forever and ever and ever and ever. And so they're against Israel because Israel looks too white. They're too technologically developed. They're too much like the straight white males in America. They're too religious, whatever it is. And the Palestinians, they're the noble savage that we must protect. And that's why they're on that side. But the thing is, in our government, they have a lot of connections with Israel, both diplomatically and financially. You guys can take that for what you will. You know, I know a lot of people are very critical of our financial arrangements with Israel. They think maybe there's a little bit too much influence there, and fair enough. I think that's a legitimate criticism. But the point I'm trying to make is, because they've indoctrinated these students with this idea, these students really, really, really support Palestine, like hardcore support Palestine, to the point where they're willing to like physically suffer for this. I mean, not really, because they sent a list of demands which were like,
yeah,
we need like toasted sandwiches, but no bagels because that's too Jewish. Did you guys see that? That was crazy.
Yeah.
That literally the list of demands that they had for food to come in listed no bagels. That I thought that was like the funniest thing I'd ever read in my life. It was like, we don't want anything that's too Jewish, you know, even though I think bagels were originally a German kind of bread, and it became in America, it became associated with Jewish people. But anyway, what a stupid.
Sure about that.
Anyway, so they're like hardcore pro-Palestine, and now Joe Biden and his folks on the left are hardcore pro-Israel because of their diplomatic association with Israel and America's support with Israel and ties to Israel. And like, I have my position on that, but you know, that's Joe Biden's position. And you have these students protesting. And guess what? Joe Biden is just not going to get their votes. He's just not. Now, are they going to vote for JFK or RFK Jr.? Are they going to vote for Trump? I don't know. Probably not Trump, but maybe RFK Jr. Probably not him either, though. Probably they're just not going to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And so Joe Biden, I think that this is just another example of Joe Biden being done. So that's why I love the situation. But I don't know. Why'd you suggest this story there, Jason? I mean, that's obviously the big story of the day.
For me, it's I was gonna say shocking, but actually it's not. So I read this story and I realized something. They completely gave up on the Muslim vote. They were trying to appease them, but I think they finally gave up. I think they realized we're gonna lose this. They are just not gonna vote for us. This is over. Like, we have to support Israel. So it's gone. Their vote is gone. So I think, you know what? I think they're saying we don't need to rely on that. We need to rely on the illegal vote. So let's get as many illegals in here because they're the ones that are gonna turn this around. I think that's what they're relying on. I think they've given up on Muslims.
Well, I think they've got 1,000 different ways to try to rig the election. The question is, can we beat them despite the rigging? And I'm an optimist. I think we can beat them in spite of the rigging. And so I don't like it
Everybody
when
gets
people
out
just
and
throw
votes.
out this comment like, "Oh, it's all rigged. I give up." It's such a nihilist approach. Like, what are you even doing watching a political show if you think it's all rigged anyway? So who cares? Like, you should be like thinking, how do we fix it, or how can we fight back, or whatever. Like, just
Well,
giving
what
up because you think it's rigged. I think
what
it's
I'm
terrible.
saying is, I'm not saying giving up. I'm saying they gave up on the Muslim vote. Like, they're not going to rely on that. They don't care
Well,
anymore.
Yeah.
The other thing
I
is,
think that the left has always
the other
had
thing
these
is-
conflicting groups that they work with, right? They work with LGBTQ, and they work with Muslims, and they work with the Jewish community, and like all these groups are like antithetical to each other. Like in New York, whenever they show like, oh, the synagogue was defiled by these New Yorkers in this act of anti-Semitism, it's always a bunch of like black teenagers. Always.
Yeah.
Always. But they never say that because they want you to think that it's like white anti-Semitism, right?
well,
Well, as you always
this
say,
no-
Chris,
this
the coalition
November,
of special interest groups. So, should I go? Okay.
I kind of interrupted Jason.
Okay.
yeah, I was
Jason,
just gonna
go ahead.
say, it all this November is gonna say everything, but I definitely don't believe in giving up. I think everybody needs to go out and vote this time. We need to overwhelm the polls. Because they will rig it in a million ways, and we need to make up for like what 20 million, 50 million illegal votes. So yeah, go ahead, Kurt.
Yep.
It's interesting. We'll see how that actually. I guess it'll be hard to know really what'll happen, how it'll actually play out, how many college students will vote for Biden, how many like illegals will vote, and various things. Like it's all going to be obscured. We're never going to know the real numbers of how it goes down after the fact. But, yeah, as Chris was always saying, has been saying for years, the left is a coalition of special interest groups. So it's basically like, oh yeah, we're with you guys, we're with you guys, we're with everyone that identifies as altruistic sort of underdog, anybody that's not conservative, as traditional like American and Christian values. Like, yeah, we're for all you guys, not these guys. And they portray conservatives sort of like the Empire in Star Wars. Like, this is the big looming sort of like threat that's keeping everybody down. It's the man, the man's oppressing you. But in reality, the Democrats are the man. They're the corrupt, established power. They just have a good marketing ploy. But finally, we're seeing more of this inherent problem that should have shown up years ago, rearing its head, where it's just like, okay, all of these groups, which are
The
essentially
conflicting special interests.
which are essentially hate groups. We were talking about this before, Chris. I said like feminists are the biggest hate group in the world, but nobody ever calls them out on it. But they're appealing to all of these what are essentially hate groups. They're like, we're for us, everybody else can just like suck it, which is not what Christians and conservatives are about at all. But then once they start saying like, hey, are you with us or them? Well, then now they're in a pickle because they don't want to say us or them. They want to say, we love everybody except the straight white men, except the conservatives, except the Christians. We love everybody. We're just like, oh, that's not going to work because now we don't like Israel. So do you guys dislike Israel? And Biden's left holding the bag like, no, we like Israel. It's like, oh, it's a big blow up. So I think it's beautiful. But when it comes to having an effect on the election, I don't think it's going to have any effect that's measurable.
Well, I have just tweeted that feminism is the biggest hate group in the world. We'll see if anybody likes that or comments on it, because I think that's a brilliant observation, Kurt. Jason, do we have another story of any interest to the public?
Joe Biden's deputies force transgenderism into workplaces. President Joe Biden's deputies are forcing transgenderism into workplaces via updated federal workplace guidelines that the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission released.
Yeah. Oh, we got Curtis jumping in with a super chat again. Thank you, Curtis. Curtis is the most generous super chatter we have. Curtis, you got to figure out a way to get in touch with me so I can get you to call into the show at some point, because this is ridiculous. You give us too much money. He says, yay, I made it again. This is my favorite stream, guys. We need a voting number so high that no amount of shenanigans will matter. 100%. That is 100% right. I think we can overwhelm the vote. In an interview with Sebastian Gorka a couple weeks ago, Trump used the word swamp. He says we have to swamp the Democrats with votes that are so so much, so intense, such high numbers. I think, swamp is a good word. Flood's a good word, but swamp could be confused with the swamp, which we don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I always say, like, just overwhelm them with so many votes, so many Republican votes that they can't win. This is a great story because I think this has kind of gone on under the radar. But basically, they just changed an existing law. They just redefined Title VII, which was like a civil rights law that basically said you can't discriminate against people. And they just threw in transgenderism in there. They just basically went like, oh, by the way, it also applies to this thing that nobody agreed to. It's being challenged right now, so hopefully it'll go to the Supreme Court or a court that'll say, nah, you can't just inject new classes of people.
Blacks should be enraged.
What are your thoughts, Jason?
I think blacks should be enraged about this.
Yeah. I agree. Because they're kind of taking a certain kind of status and they're saying that it applies to other groups of people that probably shouldn't apply to.
Yeah, and the left likes to say the great replacement isn't going on. There's no such thing as the great replacement, but literally everyone's being replaced. The voters, women, minorities, they've got a new group of people ready to fill in for everyone that exists as a citizen of this nation. So yeah.
What angers me is that the fact that they're putting into law craziness. So like, if a man walks in to get hired and he calls himself a woman, you have to like fall into that lunacy.
Right.
Or you can be sued, so they're kind of forcing people to like think or just trying to be like, go along with the craziness.
Sure.
And I think this is kind of bad for them because when a transgender person goes to apply for a job or goes for an interview, don't you think the person interviewing is going to be like, oh, okay, great. You have your opportunity. And once they leave, they're like throwing the application out because they don't want.
There was a study
issue,
about this. There was a study that said if you put pronouns in your resume, it's far less likely to be read by an employer. Because they're thinking like, well, this guy's
I had not heard that. That's amazing. Yeah,
I saw this article.
I love that.
Put it in
I love that
in the list. But so think about it. If you're a for-profit company, you're an employer, you're hiring somebody. Do you want to hire an activist? No, they're after themselves. They're an ideologue. They're not looking to make your company money. They're not looking to advance themselves. They're not capitalists. Why would you hire someone who is a communist? It makes no sense.
Well, I also made this point on Gorka's show that's airing this Sunday. So if you watch Gorka's show on Sunday, you'll see me on there. Transgenderism is the expression of a mental illness. And I don't think this is something that just conservatives believe. I think this is something that everybody knows. Everybody knows this. Even trans activists know this. They all know that it's a BS mental illness thing. But look, there's 4 kinds of transgender people. There are people that are actually suffering from severe mental illness, where they have that gender dysphoria and they've got this problem, right? Then you've got attention seekers. Now, do they really think they were born into the wrong body? No, they just want to jump on this trend because they know they can get attention from coming out as trans. Then you've got people who are they're just sort of like, I forgot what the third one was, if I'm perfectly honest. I got caught up in the second one, the attention seekers. They got 2 other kinds of people. The point I'm trying to make is, let's just focus on the people who actually are suffering for a second, right? Which is the people who are suffering from gender dysphoria. I've looked this up. I've looked up how do psychologists treat people who suffer from a delusion. Oh, sorry. The third group was people who see an advantage, right? Cheaters, people who want to join a sport and be like, I'm a woman now, and they know they can. They're like the 125th in their sport, but they're second now or first if they switch over to becoming a woman, right? They see an advantage, so they're cheating. And then obviously the fourth is just perverts and weirdos, people who have like weird fetishes and like perversions, who those people are also pretty sick, you know. But like I looked into how do psychologists treat somebody with a mental illness? And what I found out was psychologists absolutely do not affirm the delusion.
Mhm.
That is the last thing that you do, right? You never affirm the delusion. You might not contradict the delusion because maybe the person will like lose their mind or something, but you sort of gently try to push them away from their delusion or, you know, persuade them to live in reality. In whatever way you can do that. But affirming the delusion is a terrible thing to do because what happens? That becomes their reality. They go deeper into it, right? So you never want to affirm the delusion. But ever since the transgender thing came along and it's become popularized, they do this now. And like, why do they do this? Well, they do it because it's perceived by the left as cruel not to. Because on the surface, it's much nicer to tell somebody, oh, you think that you are the Queen of England? Well, okay there, Your Highness. It's so much easier to do that than to be like,
feelings
okay,
over facts. It's like, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
It's confrontational to tell somebody that they live in a delusion. And people hate confrontation. Leftists especially, they hate confrontation. So they would much rather just kind of go along with your delusion and indulge it rather than contradict you and have that conflict. We got another super chat.
You're right.
Like Concrete and Temperfied Crawfish Company, $2. He says, I cannot be replaced. I don't know quite to what you're referring there.
You're right, but the average leftist, I agree with you, Chris. But there's something more sinister with the people in power. It's Marxism right there. Like, you know.
What are you talking about?
Destroy society, destroy anything.
Yeah, but I don't think that the average person that goes along with this is thinking that way. There are some.
That's what I said. That's what I said. Like the average leftist, normal person, it's like what you said exactly. But I think the people in charge have a more sinister thing, and they're putting in laws and all this stuff to do what they're doing to put Marxism.
Yeah, they're of course they're going to exploit the situation.
Yep.
Where, you know, you've got people believing in this delusion, sexual perversion, you know, attention-seeking behavior, but
gives them more power.
But here's why I think it's really become popularized. I don't think that's actually the biggest problem that we have, because they'll do that with anything. They'll do that. The communists will try to destroy this country in any way they can. The reason I think that transgenderism has become so popular is because if you're a leftist and you have been convinced that the most humane way to deal with these delusional people is to affirm their delusions, then anybody who does not affirm the delusion is a cruel person.
Yeah.
So now this gives you a sense of moral authority. Oh, I'm the one affirming their delusion, so I'm the nice one. And if you don't affirm their delusions, if you don't call this guy she, her, then you're a creep. Then you're a bad guy. And I'm better than you. And now that you have created in your mind this new delusion that you're actually the nice person and the conservative who cares about the truth is the meanie, then you're the good guy, they're the bad guy, and it like, you know, I'm making a video about this right now. This creates this fairy tale. Well, you're the hero and the straight white man, the conservative who believes in the truth, is the evil villain, and you're going to go out and you're going to fight this battle and you're going to slay the evil sorcerer, which is us, you know, cruel, evil white people or straight white men. And they love that. They love living in this fiction. And what's the worst thing is, I don't know if you've ever said anything like that was controversial against or provocative toward trans people on Twitter, but they go absolutely mental. The trans activists are the most psycho people on the planet. They will try to destroy your life. Like they will try to find your boss. They will try to like ruin your business, whatever it might be. They'll try to destroy you.
Haven't they?
Because they really think they're the heroes and you're the bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't make the news when they do that.
Yeah.
Well,
but you know, I think it's a losing battle for them. I think people are waking up and it's a losing battle. Go ahead, Kurt. I'm sorry for interrupting.
I think it's you, Jason, that said before that, like, you know, you'll say like something is just a distraction. All these things are distractions. Like that's part of it. It's if you can get the people who are the sane people in insane worlds to second guess everything they say and do, then you've already won. It's the idea is like, okay, like let's obfuscate the truth at every turn, like this relativistic morality, where it's like, oh, don't say this, it's like the thought police, the speech police, that sort of thing. It's just like if you can get people to second guess saying the truth, saying what they believe, the people that are not the mentally challenged ones or the delusional ones, to second guess everything they say while handing the crazies a megaphone, then society is doomed. As a culture, we're just sort of like totally off base, and then in a social state of upheaval like that, then the criminals that are in charge of the government can get away with whatever they want, because you're so busy, like Chris said, you're worried about the cancel mob on Twitter. You're so worried about that, about losing your job, about that sort of like your base level existence, that
you're saying if you can get people to be concerned about their social situation, then you can control them.
You're right.
It's stifling them through fear and through just like making them feel like they can't express themselves, which is hilarious because the left is supposed to be all about freedom of expression, but it's only freedom of expression for the people who are considered to be the put upon in society,
the special people.
It's especially now during election time. It's all distractions. They have to like distract with trans this or race this or race that, because if they run on their economic policies or global policies, it's a losing battle. They're going to lose. So you notice how they focus now on things that have nothing to do with what's really affecting people. It's totally a distraction.
Yeah. All right. Shall we try to move on to the next story? So the basic, like the fundamental concept here is that they seem to be trying to push this idea that if you do anything that's like could be even perceived as unfair to a trans person because they're trans, if that's at all perceived to be that way, you can get basically completely screwed over as a business or as a business owner or as a manager of a company or anything like that, which that's pretty scary stuff. So, I mean, it's being challenged in court right now, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe that's why it went under the radar, because it's still being challenged.
Yeah.
But
look what they're doing to Trump. Come on. Like, it's going to happen. Yeah. Maybe the law won't pass, but like it'll affect businesses. Like, if
it's not a law that needs to pass. They've taken a law that already exists and they've just reinterpreted it to apply this trans thing. So they don't need to pass a law. This is the way that they work, right? They try to circumvent the law. So the hope is that the challenges to this new change will be effective and they won't be able to go through with prosecuting anybody or suing anybody for this.
Yeah, sorry, but I will never admit a man is a woman because I'm married to a woman that's had a child, and a man can never come close to being what a woman is, or the struggles they go through or the things they go through, just as equally a woman can
and no woman can understand the struggles men go through, no matter how short you cut your hair. You paused long enough that it seemed like you were done. Okay, I can't read your mind. I can't know that you got like 10 more minutes to go.
Jason, you have to realize that every second that Chris is not talking is like a torture for him. It seems like 10 minutes has gone by.
It wouldn't be a torture if you guys were more interesting.
No. That's what you get for hiring your friends instead of people that are qualified to do this job.
True that.
Okay, so next up is
okay, you want to go to that? Yeah.
Torres. Colombia could have stopped chaos by threatening to revoke visas of encampment members. So I believe Richie Torres is a Democrat from New York, stated that if Columbia University president, I'm not going to say the name, had threatened to expel or revoke the visas of students in the encampment on campus or fire members of the faculty who were in the encampment and followed through on these threats, this situation could have been resolved decisively. Funny how now they want to revoke people's visas. Democrats.
Yeah.
When it's working against
Democrats have actually been pretty clear on this issue for some time now. documentation is the enemy. So if you have a visa, that means you're a law-abiding citizen. There's no place for you in this country. You better sneak your ass across the border like the rest of them, or you're privileged. Like, it's par for the course. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
It's weird to me that this is their position, because I actually don't mind the protests that much. Like the reason I think the protests are a problem is because the colleges just aren't kicking these kids off school grounds. Like, there's, they can do whatever they want. If the colleges want to let the kids protest, what are we going to do? Like, these colleges are letting the kids ruin their schools. It's like, okay, fine. Like it's funny. They're like, oh, the January 6th protests were so terrible. Like, if you think that they should put these kids in prison, then you think they should imprison January 6th. No, because January 6th was an actual protest. It wasn't like they weren't trying. Like, okay, some of the people there damaged some stuff, which a lot
FBI
of us
agents.
Exactly. A lot of us suspect that some of the people who did the most damage, some of the people who scuffled with police, some of the sort of more, the bigger agitators in the crowd were actually plants. Okay, that's a story for another topic. But
We've all seen the footage.
yeah, if there were people that were causing some kind of like physical damage to the Capitol, I don't think there's anyone, even conservatives, would say, "Oh no, just let those guys go off get off scot-free." Now, in this country, we do have a long tradition. I'm going to get rid of this screen.
Hold on, Chris. Just real quick, 1 second. Matthew Coolidge, he writes, I want to build a log cabin in the mountains and leave this society behind. Weren't we just talking about that the other day, Chris? I was telling you that's my goal.
You and Chris are going to go
interrupting me.
You and Chris are going to go away together to a log cabin.
Hold on, you guys.
Michael,
I'm literally in the middle of a thought here.
Go in the middle of a cabin.
I'm forgetting what I was going to say. Why would you just wait till I'm
you
done?
stepped away. You stepped away.
Because I was trying to get rid of the screen thing because my mouse stopped working. Just, oh my God. Okay. What the hell was I even talking about?
Beats me.
I don't even know. This is what you do, Jace. This is what you
We're
do.
talking about Columbia University.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know.
And the kids leaving.
Oh, January 6th. I was talking about January 6th.
Yes.
The point of January 6th was not to cause damage to the Capitol. There are some people that did that. And I don't know any conservatives that would be like, oh, yeah, if you figure out who caused the damage to the Capitol, there should be no consequences for them. I think that people are reasonable about that. And they go, okay, but we have a long history in this country of kind of being lenient with protesters, right? They call it civil disobedience, right? Civil disobedience is part of a lot of protests. So if you cause a little bit of damage here and there, some vandalism, something like that, a lot of people kind of like just are like, okay, it's fine. It's just part of what happens when you have a protest, right? Now, if you burn a cop car or burn down a Wendy's or something like that, okay, that's a little bit more than just a little bit of vandalism, right? And in the case of some of these colleges, maybe the damage is pretty significant. I don't really know what the extent of the damage is. But to me, January 6th, once these protesters, made their presence known and expressed what they wanted to express, they left. They didn't stay there for a week. They didn't camp there. You know what I mean? These college students have decided they're going to take over the university. So the university wants to function. They got to kick them out. And they can bring the police and they can kick them out. They can bring in the National Guard, whatever they want to do. They just have to call the authorities and say, can we work out a way to get rid of these students? They can expel the students. They can they can do whatever they want. But these colleges are just allowing this to happen. So, like, to me, I don't mind it. I say, like, let them go. Like, I'm not complaining. Like, if the colleges want to let their campuses get destroyed or taken over, whatever. It's not really fair to the kids that have paid a lot of money to go to school there. But I feel like those kids might be able to sue the school and get their money back, stuff like that.
It's a wake-up moment for those kids, because the ones that are paying to go to school there that don't want to have any part of this, it's like the college system, the university system is broken. This is the degrees that people are getting are worthless. They're spending all this money.
Some of the degrees, I do think a little bit of college is a scam for sure. Not everything. Engineering is good.
Too much of it.
Nursing is good.
It is a scam.
Yeah.
How do we know?
And they're reaping.
By the way,
what
how
they
do we know
sow.
these are students? I'm
No, we
seriously
know
doubt
that
it.
a lot of them are not students.
Yeah.
So you're saying
Notice
there's,
how
like,
when
plants
conservatives
and
protest,
agitators?
Not plants
notice
and
how when
agitators, just people from the outside coming in to participate.
yeah,
Hmm.
notice how conservatives when they protest, it's like lasts like a few hours or half a day. They leave, they clean up everything, but then when the left protests, they destroy everything. They make their own governmental little cities like actual treason. I know I
think
use
this
that
is
word a
poetic
lot,
justice.
Huh?
I think this is poetic justice. I think it's good because universities and places like this, they're the breeding grounds for citizen protesters that don't have anything else going on in their lives. Like it used to be in this country,
Right.
where to vote you had to be a landowner, you had to have a stake in society. Now you've got people that are like pro-communism. They want mommy and daddy government to take care of them, and they spend all their time devising new ways to bite the hand that feeds them. There's university students, and they're going like, oh yeah, we don't like America, we don't like the establishment, we don't like this or that. And the universities were fine when they were creating this monster and pointing it at the stuff they didn't like, big government, conservatives, those sort of things. But now like it's come back around to them. I think it's beautiful because you've created this monster, and now it's like tearing down your own house.
Maybe we should go out and get a house in the country. What do you guys think? We'll go buy a big house.
I'm all for
There's a
it.
lot of there's a lot of ridges in Hawaii that don't have any kind of like anything built on them. I've noticed. You ever notice that, Kurt? You look up at the top of the ridge and there's nothing there. I'm sure we could bribe an official or two. Get a big house.
Do the show from there.
That's the only way you get anything.
Do the
done in
show
this state,
from
I
there.
guarantee it.
Yeah, it'll be
We're
nice.
com-
We'll get a
we're-
helicopter. We don't even have a road. We
Private
just have a
islands.
helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get one of the private islands. All right, should we move on to the next story?
Sure. Why not?
Yes. Marjorie Taylor Greene puts a Muga hat on the picture of Mike Johnson. Ah, yes, my favorite subject, Mike Johnson.
Now
Jason loves Johnson.
Yeah, Jason's best friend. You may think that Muga was pronounced incorrectly, but because Jason does occasionally mispronounce things, but not this time. No, this is actually
Can't disagree
real.
with you. Very
Okay.
true.
Let me play this. Hold on one second.
Yeah, that's what this says. The Uniparty is Make Ukraine Great Again. The Uniparty is all about funding every single foreign war. They think this is the business model that needs to be done. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, that's what this says. The Uniparty is Make Ukraine Great Again.
Deja vu.
Oh, I agree. What a waste of money we just sent. Well, it's going to come back.
Buzzwords, Jason.
Say that again. What?
Uniparty. Am I falsely attributing that to you? You love to say it's the Uniparty. Burn it all down.
It is.
Well, is it make Ukraine great again, or is it make the Uniparty great again?
I thought it was Ukraine, but maybe it is.
Her point was
That
Ukraine, but actually you're right. It's because the money comes back to the Uniparty.
Right.
So.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look. It's a funny little thing. I actually didn't. I was a little bit on the fence about posting this because I was like, this is obviously just a publicity stunt. But I do think she makes a good point, and she is drawing our attention to something valuable. Look, Marjorie Taylor Greene does have a way of being a little bit crazy and provocative, and maybe she's an attention seeker, and maybe she does things a little bit unorthodox. But yeah, I like, excuse me, I like how she brings attention to stuff, and she does get the word out. I don't know. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Imagine if we had 100 Marjorie Taylor Greenes in Congress right now. Be great.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like Marjorie Taylor Greene is the kind of person you wouldn't want as like your school teacher, but she's great as like a congressman.
I don't know. Maybe we would. Maybe she'd be like, guys, it's pointless. Take the day off.
That's true. Wouldn't it be funny if she was like your history teacher and she was like, you know what, guys, I'm really kind of sick of talking about slavery again for the 900th time. So Let's talk about all the ways white people are awesome. It's people just like, "Yay!"
Exactly.
All right, should we move on to the next one? Or we want to?
I
Kurt?
agree with Jason.
Nothing?
I love her.
Thank you. Moving on. Former Nickelodeon boss Dan Schneider files defamation suit against Quiet on Set producers. Hit job. There was this documentary called Quiet on Set, and it was all about like Nickelodeon and how it was like all bunch of like pedophile stuff and lots of accusations, lots.
Okay, well, I happen to be kind of connected to this guy weirdly. So this guy used to be on a show in the 80s that I liked. I actually watched this show when I was a kid called The Head of the Class. It's a great show, very funny show. And I know a couple of the other actors who were on that show at the time with this guy. And they're friends with him. I think they're friends with him to this day. So I texted one of them. I only texted one of them. I should have texted both, but I only texted one. And I wrote, what are your thoughts on this? And I sent him the article. And he hasn't responded. So I don't actually know what the response is from my contact, my Hollywood contact that knows this guy. Yeah. But the accusations against him are relatively tame. Like I didn't see any accusations that were like, explicit accusations of sexual abuse or anything like really vicious. And I happen to know that there are people in Hollywood that are extremely, like, actually will commit acts of sexual abuse against children. I knew this guy who was like a male model, whatever. We had to do this movie together thing. And we just got done talking about Hollywood stuff. And he said that at one point he had got a phone call from a guy who was just going through like folders full of pictures of guys. And he would pull the folders out. This is what he gleaned from the conversation. And this guy would basically just like call him and say, hey, listen, I can get you a role in this or that project, but you need to come over to my place so that we can, fool around or whatever. And the guy was like, well, so I told the guy, like, I'm not gay. And this producer was like, I don't care. I wrote his name down. I have lists of people from Hollywood that I have on my little list of
You're
stories.
Like Trump with your folder.
I am. Yeah, I got a little folder. But, and this guy was like, no, I'm not going to do anything like that. And the guy just hung up on him. Boom. Just like that. Just hung up on him. And presumably went on to the next picture in the Rolodex. Mm-hmm. But this guy's, the problem that I have with this is I feel like this guy, I don't know for sure, but I feel like this guy's being railroaded for something that is actually a real problem that other guys do. And those guys are getting off scot-free. And this guy's being criticized for saying some things maybe that were a little funny or silly or jokey or whatever that were taken the wrong way. I feel like a decent guy is being attacked here. Well, like legitimate creeps are getting off scot-free. That's what I feel like.
Oh, so you think that Dan Schneider is like is being unjustly persecuted?
Unjustly persecuted. Yeah, at the sort of...
Wow, did not see that's coming.
Yeah, I do. That's what I think. Because I'm looking at the accusations and I think these
Chris Coles, everybody.
They're exaggerated or made up for attention or something like that. What's that?
I agree with Chris. I think they just want to knock every man that's powerful, especially in that industry. I think they just want to knock them down. Until there's like some actual real evidence.
Right.
You can't just go on assumptions, or accusations.
And also, this guy could have something on other. Like, I don't know, like, why wouldn't you go after the real creeps? Why, like, I feel like there's something up here. Like, why would you not go after the real creeps?
Mm-hmm. Because the real creeps.
Like, why would you go after somebody who has these like very like low level accusations against him? Why wouldn't you go after like actual? Because there's some legitimately horrific people in Hollywood.
Who were documentary filmmakers? By and large, would you say that they lean one way politically, Chris?
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's a great point. But I don't know what his politics are. Actually,
who's funding them? who's funding them.
I
See,
will. I
was
will
thinking it was
say
pretty cut
this.
and
I
dry.
will say this. Both of the people I know who were actors on that show with him, who I know personally, are very much left wing. They're very much Democrats.
I
Not
I have to
So
say there's a comment where Matthew Koo says there is still a shadow of doubt, but look at him, just seems off. Let me tell you something. I kind of was in that industry too. You would think that the creepy people are the ones, but let me tell you, the actors and filmmakers that look the most normal and look the most coolest are the most weirdest. Are the
some
ones
of
that
them,
are
yeah,
really
for sure,
crazy.
for sure. Some of them are definitely like that.
Yeah, you'd have
Yeah.
a unique
So
perspective.
I
on
wouldn't
this
go by
because
looks.
You'd have a unique perspective on this because you were a male model, right, Jason? You're a
For a
Derek
short time.
Zoolander in
Yeah.
real life.
For a
So-
short time. The stuff I witnessed kind of got me out of that thing really quick.
Okay.
Look, let me tell you a quick story.
Sorry, I didn't
about
mean to
that.
bring up past trauma. Go on.
Yeah, so like I was like a 14-year-old
Franklin.
and I was 14 years old. Somebody spotted
Chris,
me
this is
out.
good
And
TV.
they were like, "Oh, we need you. I want you in my magazine." You know, this was in South Beach, and some guy just like, "We need you in a magazine." And because my dad had a store there at one point,
My
and these
magazine,
people
they
used to-
meant van.
yeah, these people used to come in all the time, and they were like, "Oh, your son has
I got it,
an
Kurt.
amazing look." So I was like 14. They were like, "We want him to be in our magazine." So I was like, "Okay, yeah, I want to do it. Yeah, why not?" But let me tell you, on the location, it was with those big trucks, but on the location, I was in the truck with a female model. And I'm a 14-year-old, and this female model is practically getting naked in front of me and like showing herself, like, I guess trying to turn on a little 14-year-old or something. But it was like a shock to me.
In her defense, you look exactly the same way you do now. So,
but yeah, but that's the kind of thing that goes on in that kind of
Yeah, but
industries
I'm
and
not
stuff.
100% sure that that's specifically indicative of. I don't think that's so, because like in Hollywood, like I had this friend of mine who was like a makeup artist once, and she goes, "Hey, I'm going to be doing makeup for this fashion show. Can you come?" It was like LA Fashion Week or something. Can you come to the sort of like the makeup room and shoot some behind the scenes footage? And she goes, "Just do it with your iPhone. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just come with your iPhone, shoot some footage. I need it for like my reel or whatever for my makeup stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Okay." So I go there. The area that we're in is literally like the dressing room behind the scenes for the runway show. And these girls, they get into their outfit to go on the runway. They come back out, they strip everything off, and they put on the next outfit. And I'm just like, oh, damn. And, it's like that's the job, is just wearing different clothes. So it's not really a particularly sexy thing. I mean, there are very, very, very sexy women, but it's just like work for them, right? They don't care who's in the room. They're just doing it, right? At one point, there was some criticism of Donald Trump that he walked into like a beauty pageant behind, like in the backstage or something. But that's just what goes on backstage at these places. Like if you're in that business, which I'm not, but I was brought in by somebody who is, you do see that. I mean, that's just what goes on at these shows. And you do get propositioned. Let me tell you, you definitely get propositioned if you go to runway shows. I mean, the models. If you're hanging out with models, it will happen. So there is that.
Chris,
but that's
you're good
just
looking.
human
We
nature.
get it. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
You don't have to.
Look.
You don't have to drive them home. Okay.
my situation,
sorry,
I
that's
was a
just kidding.
14-year-old, Chris, and I look like a 14-year-old. I was like probably 70 pounds. It's recently now that I actually kind of starting to look my age. But I didn't complain, tell you the truth. I mean, for a young man,
No.
I'm not saying I complain, but it's awkward, man. Like, you
ever see these
I
teacher-student
was like, if it's gonna be
stories
like
where
this,
it's like,
I think I want to be a model for the rest of my life.
do you ever see these teacher-student stories where like it's like, oh, this teacher, this is statutory rape, and this poor boy, but blah blah blah. And you see the teacher, and she's like a total knockout, and you're like,
yeah, all the time.
why didn't that happen when I was in school? Like,
Yeah.
like that. You don't want to say, maybe the kid is traumatized. I don't know. I don't want to make a joke about that, but like, I would not have had a problem with this. Like, I would have.
It's curious.
Okay with such
It's
an
curious because you feel like my thought, anyways, that when it's like a teacher or someone in a position of authority, if it's a man, usually these cases that you hear about, it's like men taking advantage of younger women.
Right.
So it's the idea is like, okay, you're like, it's a position of authority, and it's you supposedly you can pick out these people, like people that are abusers can see someone and be like, okay, that is a person.
They're a vulnerable person that I can manipulate.
Person.
Yeah.
And in most cases too, it's someone that's experienced abuse in the past, or is sort of like already in that role, where they'd be like, okay, this person is an easy target, sort of like a predator with like a wounded animal or something. Like, okay, that's easy prey. That's the sort of
100%. Well, I can give you an example of this. Actually,
I wonder if women operate the same way as men in that case. Do they pick?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
My guess is that
they're going after the boy they couldn't get in high school. Like,
yeah, that's my guess.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
Okay, interesting.
But like during the sort of like Catholic Church scandal, which I hate bringing up because the left brings it up all the time. It's like, it's annoying, to be honest, because it's like, yeah, this horrible thing happens. Do you have to bring it up all the time? But they love talking about it because it's like this conservative institution. They had this like very serious problem, and they're like, you're all pedophiles. It's like, well, come on.
So you're going to bring it up.
But I am going to bring it up because it
Chris
actually affected somebody. All right. Hilarious.
Please go on.
There's somebody somebody that is close to our family was abused by one of these priests for real. And he was a friend of my dad's. And we kind of had a talk about this, because this all happened when I was, I think, in college or something like that, around there. So I was old enough that, obviously I could have a discussion about this with my family. So we're kind of discussing this, and, this is when it came out, like when this particular story came out. And my mom's theory, and this was quite astute of my mother, was exactly what you said, Kurt, was that like this guy that my dad knew was very shy, was a very sort of shy, timid guy. And my dad was a much more outgoing, like, because my dad had no idea. He'd never heard this until he was like an old man, basically. This happened to his friend. And like, I'm like, well, that's so weird. Like, so I wonder how he picked his targets. And my mom was like, oh, this kid, when he was like a kid, was like very, very shy. And yeah, that is like a thing where these guys will pick the kid they don't think will ever tell anyone. And the effed up thing is, I think they're actually pretty good at picking the right kids, because I think a lot of times they do pick the kid that is too afraid to go out and talk about it. And that's what makes these guys so extremely dangerous and very, very sinister. Honestly, I do think this is the worst thing in the world. Like, I think this is abusing kids in this way is the worst thing in the world.
Yes, they deserve the worst punishment ever.
Yeah. Yeah, they would deserve the worst punishment ever. Is right.
You were saying Catholic, but is it a Catholic problem? I don't think it's a Catholic problem.
Oh, of course it's not a Catholic problem. I'm just saying that's why I don't like to talk about it, is because they pretend that it's a Catholic problem. But it's a problem with all kinds of schools. It's a problem with all kinds of different, any industry where you got kids and adults interacting. You're going to have some people that are drawn to that profession specifically for this reason.
Exactly.
Usually it's male priests with male students. So we can see where the problem is. But I agree with you. Yeah.
We need to eliminate men, and then there'll be no problem. But I mean,
just eliminate men. Yeah.
All those aggressive men going after everybody. But, damn it, I had a thought. I know it's rare.
That's what you get for making that stupid rhino joke.
Yes, Chris finally
quit living in the past.
Chris finally made clear, and he's proven himself to not be a rhino. So come on, we got to give him. We got to let it go, Kurt. Let it go.
Wow, ganging up on me, Jason. It's supposed to be you and me against Chris. I thought we had a pact.
Well, that's what happened last episode. I don't know what that was about. Kurt Kurt got this in his head that like
Jason and I got
oh,
notes. We're just like, oh, Chris is like, I don't like you guys ganging up on me.
I feel like he redeemed himself. So, but let's see. There's always other episodes, right?
No, you guys should
We'll
gang up
see.
on me. I think it's better. It'll be better for ratings, and by ratings I mean views, because we're not actually on television.
Yet.
We can do rhetorical battles, the two of you against me. Let's do it. I like it. I think it's a good idea.
So, ready to move on, or
yeah, next story.
If I come up with a lost thought that I've misplaced, I'll interject. Otherwise,
Kurt,
please.
There's this horrible reality that you were bound to hear from someone, so I might as well tell you. Nobody cares. That's my Joe Biden impression.
They will.
Hollywood recession. Visual effects studios behind Dune, Oppenheimer to lay off hundreds. Chris, you said something. Was it Chris or Kurt?
I like Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was much better than Closed-Timer.
You guys, a joke like that, Chris? That's what you were saying. Not funny. Yeah. Chris, I know you said something interesting about this earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the point that I was trying to make is like they put all this money into Kurt and I went on this long chat actually last night about this. Last night for me, earlier today for Kurt, about how in the old days studios used to make like 1 million movies. Like studios would make hundreds of movies every year. So if some of them didn't work out that well, it didn't matter because they had like a lot of movies that would do well, and then they'd make tons of money. And even the ones they lost money on, it wasn't that much money because they weren't spending like obscene amounts of money. They tried in like the 50s to start doing, because they were competing with TV, to try to do these like biblical epics, these big budget films. And that worked for a little while. But then they started losing money on some of these big budget films. So they had to go into a more experimental cycle in like the 70s. And then at the end of the 70s, they found something that worked really, really well. They found like the Star Wars model, right? They were doing Superman. They were doing Star Wars. They were doing these big blockbuster movies that weren't like the big epics of the 50s, but they were big in the sense that they were very sensational, like, Schwarzenegger, larger than life characters, this kind of stuff, big action films. And what happened was because they realized that the bigger and more explosive and the bigger stars that they used and the more exciting the film was and the more stunts that they could do and these, like, the bigger they could make the film seem, the more money they could make, right? Mm-hmm. And so instead of making 1,000 films like they did in the 30s and, just making some money off of all of them, and, if they lost a little bit, it didn't matter because they weren't spending that much. They would spend tons of money on these big budget films. And then if they lost, then they lost money on some of them. It was okay because what they were doing is they were hiring the best directors, the best writers, the best actors, the best everyone. And it was working. And they never really changed that model. And so they've not really gone to, let's make 1 million smaller films. They're still doing these sort of big budget films like Dune and Oppenheimer, stuff like that. Now, Oppenheimer, I feel like they did just produce a great film. I haven't seen Oppenheimer.
Don't like
but it didn't. You didn't like it? I haven't seen it. I think Christopher Nolan is actually a really successful director. He's the kind of director that can get butts in the seats. He can make money. Hype. So if you put money on, Nolan, you're probably going to make your money back, right? Yeah. Whether it's hype or not, whether or not you like him or not is irrelevant, right? It's what the people are going to do. But Dune, even though there's a lot of people I know online that I respect who like Dune, I watched Dune and I don't get it. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. It's terrible. It's a terrible movie. It's full of.
I haven't seen any of it. I think that I actually like the original Dune. I thought that the David Lynch Dune from the 80s is a classic in my mind.
I know. Gorka agrees with you. You guys should have a chat about that because I'm not really on board with that one. I thought
Did you say you're not movie. Really bored? Boring?
It is the whole kind of story of Dune.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: the concept of Dune. Two things I like about Dune, and I haven't read the novel, so I can't say one way or another if I like the novel. But the inspiration was the sand dunes of Southern Oregon, where I'm from. I'm from Oregon, and we used to go camping. We used to go like vacation in Southern Oregon, and we used to go run around on those dunes.
There
The
are
dunes
sand
that
dunes in Oregon.
Yes,
Jeez.
look it up. These are the sand dunes that inspired the novel Dune. Because this guy was
cool.
living in
That's-
Oregon, and he wrote this
That's
thing.
cool.
And I was on those sand dunes as a boy, and honestly, and I'm not even joking. That is some of my most fond memories as a boy, is running up and down the sand dunes in Oregon. I absolutely love that place. It's a magical place. I can understand completely where he got inspired to write this whole world around those sand dunes, because they're very, very cool. It's a very cool place. Now, the other thing I love about Dune is that it totally inspired Star Wars. There's a lot of stuff in Dune that is ripped off and directly put into Star Wars. Like the whole
I heard about
concept
that.
of, the whole concept of the spice mines of, what do they call it? The spice mines of Kessel or something like that. I can't remember. In Star Wars, they got that concept of the spice mines from Dune. Like Tatooine is this desert planet with what? Sand dunes everywhere. It's just copied from Dune. Like George Lucas just copied Dune basically and made Star Wars out of it. But Star Wars, I feel like, is a much better story. It's a much more exciting story. It's a much more fun story. And I think that franchise obviously did better. At least the first three movies. I don't know about anything else about it, but Dune, I never really enjoyed. And what really annoyed me about the new version of Dune is the whole, like, again, they did this whole thing with the primitive, like the noble savage, right? This idea that the special people, the one with the glowing eyes, it's like Avatar. It felt like Avatar, but worse. You know, I don't know.
I agree.
That's
I
my
hate
thoughts.
that.
And the point
I hate the whole
is,
noble savage plot. I hate that.
Same
thing with
of,
what was the one with the blue aliens?
Avatar.
Yeah, Avatar.
I literally just said it's like Avatar, but worse.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. anyway.
Again,
Look,
guys, I'm dealing with a cold, so
that's true. That's true. He sounds great though, doesn't he? Look, regardless of how
my
well
voice
these
sounds more
films
raspy
do,
and manly.
I've never been more attracted to Jason than I am right now.
I have.
Well, we just started the podcast, so maybe
1999. You remember Jason?
Jason came down at the sand dunes of Oregon. You guys rented a cabin together, and it was a magical summer. Anyway, go on.
Don't ruin my memories of the sand dunes in Oregon, Kurt. No.
I apologize.
The fictional gay stuff that I'm talking about would have happened in Miami. Hello.
Yes.
Anyway.
How could the inclusion of Jason ruin anything, honestly?
Hold on. We got another super chat here by our favorite super chatter, Curtis, KD5AYY. And again,
I think
he throws us $100, which I don't understand.
I think that's where your wife's, what is the name? No, sorry. Off of Power Concrete, Semper Fi Crawford's company. I think that's where the objection came into play, was that you endowed Curtis with the #1 slot of participants in the chat. So you need to spread it around.
It's not my fault. He showers us with money. What else am I
fair
gonna
enough. Fair enough. So
he says, I'm right there with Kurt.
Semper Fi Crawford's company. You need to give us more money, or you will continue to be second best in the eyes of Chris Coles.
Look, I always feature everybody's super chats. Come on. He says, I'm right there with Kurt. Sand dunes in Oregon. Who would have thought that? Yeah, because the thing is, Oregon, we always just think of the trees, right? But it's actually got a lot of different. Yeah, but it's got a lot of climate. Like
the moon of Endor with the Ewoks, and not the sand dunes in Oregon. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I'll tell you what, we'll figure something out at some point. I will take you guys to the sand dunes in Oregon, and you will see them.
The thing about Star Wars,
eventually we'll figure out a way to keep Kurt from interrupting me. So I'm glad you went that way with it. Sorry,
the thing about Star Wars and Dune, they're not your normal sci-fi ideas. They're completely different worlds. They're special. Dune, I don't think they've gotten it right. I've never read the books, but I think they haven't gotten it right. If Star Wars is based off that, then I don't think they've gotten it right. The other thing is,
But
about the
Gorka's
movies and
watching.
the
Gorka's
big budget
watching.
movies. The big budget
And
movies
he
is
right.
that in the 80s, 70s,
Okay, never mind.
they gave it to the directors. And the
Yeah,
directors
well,
have
that's
the power.
exactly it. Yeah.
Now it's not. It's back to the studio system. So like,
Mhm.
it's studios have their say in it, and it's all about like what the audience will think, or what this group thinks, or what that group thinks. So yeah, I mean,
Especially
Yeah,
Disney.
it's-
Disney with the Marvel and
It's
Star
art
Wars
by
projects.
committee, is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
and
Yes,
and
absolutely.
going back to the visual effects studio, laying off people. I mean, what did they think? Obviously, the minute movies start to kind of lose money, I mean, wokeism destroyed the movie industry, and as soon as like they were overpricing, these visual effects companies just overpriced because they thought it was a good thing they had, and they took advantage of it. But that's not going to happen anymore.
It's not
Like
gonna
wokeism,
You actually
wokeism
make an
destroyed
interesting
your
point.
careers.
You actually make an interesting point, which is like, I think the concept of these big budget, really big films that are huge blockbusters, I don't think that works when you have this like art by committee style production. The art by commission style production only really works for like mildly successful stuff. Like I think the Hallmark Channel had a lot of that, right? But they're not putting so much money in that it's going to like destroy them if it's not like a huge hit.
It's a good point. It works
Whereas-
for TV.
It works for TV. It works for like in the
Disposable
30s. What they would do, yeah, in the 30s, what they would do is they would pump out so many scripts that it was like, well, some of them are bound to be okay and do reasonably well. And then when they did The Thin Man, which is a movie we reviewed on Make Movies Great Again, check that out on Rumble, fantastic show. When we did the Thin Man review, like when the guy that directed that, he came to the studio and he goes, look, I direct all this crap for you guys. Why don't you let me direct something of my own? They went, yeah, sure, go ahead. And they had like no creative control. They just said, yeah, go. You can do it, just do it really quick because we need you for this other project or whatever. And he's like, fine, I can do it in 2 weeks. Boom, 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 shoots a thing. Like his favorite project, the project, his like passion project is what he wanted to do. And it was one of the biggest hits of that year, and it spawned 5 sequels. Crazy. Crazy what you can get if you give artists the freedom to create art. But you got to get the right artist. You can't get the black lesbian. And this is, I think, the problem. They're doing art by committee, and they're also not bringing in the best talent. They're bringing in the most diverse talent, you know, and it's ruining the whole industry. So even if Dune was successful, even if Oppenheimer was successful, I think so few people, and I think that they still think that, oh, there's this like lagging COVID effect. I think that they still think that it's like
just excuse making.
Oh, people.
That's all it is.
It's just excuse making. I think that they believe that because of YouTube and all these other things, that's why people aren't going to the movies anymore. No, guys, if you are making good projects, we would watch your films. I want you to produce things that make me want to give you my money. Okay, but
yeah,
they're not.
To get
They're
me
just
out of the
not.
house. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, only
to
the
get me
last thing
out-
I have to say is that
Try to get you out of the basement
la-
first, then the house is the next step after that.
the last
done
thing,
that.
yeah, the last thing I was going to say is Sebastian Gorka is watching our show, which I'm sorry, my friend, because this is not our best one. And he writes, the original Dune, OG Dune, he writes, rocks! Exclamation point. So
does,
you,
because
Kurt, you and
got
Gorka
style.
gotta jump on that together and have a
Yeah,
little
it's
chat.
great. It's a very stylistic film. The acting is good. It's operatic. I
it's
think
great
it's sort
when
of,
you're-
it's
when
sort
you're-
of like the counterculture Star Wars in a way, where it's
it's
sort of
it's great
like,
when you're
it's
at
got a
home.
feeling to it.
It's great when you're at home and you want to go to sleep. You just put Dune on and bam, you're out.
Okay, listen. I actually did get a response from the actor from one of the actors from that show I was talking about, head of the class. He has written, Chris, I don't know enough about Dan's case to respond. Watched the doc though, and I am sorry for the kids who were abused by the two. And he uses the P word there. I did not watch the documentary. So I'm not privy to everything exactly. So it sounds like there were other people who definitely were abusive people.
Well,
you know,
there were actual P's on the sets. that he hired that actually did abuse some actors. Especially there was one actor, a male actor, that was traumatized by one of the people that worked there. So yeah, it's no denying that happened, and we're not saying it didn't happen because we know those things go on there, and it goes on a lot. But the evidence for that one person is there. There's clear evidence that he did that. But for this producer, this guy, there hasn't been a clear evidence. There hasn't been something where, okay, he was actually a part that he actually did that. There's weird things, yeah, but you can't just destroy somebody without, actual evidence. Like, we can't go that route in this country.
No,
Absolutely.
yeah, exactly. It's
actually
a
not
cancel
until this
culture
point.
thing.
It's not until this
Look.
point, actually, we're talking about this. I kind of fell into that trap where I was thinking it was kind of cut and dry, where this guy was popping up and being like, oh, like, here's another one. And I just sort of like bought into it. Like, the fact that he is coming forward and saying like, hey, I'm going to fight these charges. I'm going to go against this. I was just like, yeah, well, it's just a PR thing. But as we've been talking about it, I don't know the details of it. I never watched the show. I don't know the facts surrounding the case. But I feel like there seems to be such a united effort against him. It almost sort of like absolves him in my mind in a way, because it's sort of like when you see them going after somebody like Trump, where it's just like, oh yeah, definitely he's guilty.
Yeah.
Like, go after him.
That's
after
why.
him.
That's another reason I'm very
piling
skeptical.
on- the piling on is making me think like, wait a minute, maybe we misjudged him, because you don't usually see a guy in front against these guys, and the fact that there's not a lot of people, not a lot of offenders, where people going like, oh, and he has this one guy, Drake and Josh guy, that said, yeah, there were people that were messed up and that did things, but he wasn't one of them. What does he stand to gain? He's already coming out against this practice, and he's saying like, no, he's not one of the bad ones. But by and large, the message is he is one of the bad ones. That makes me feel like, okay, they're looking to cancel him because he's not playing ball. There's something more larger and sinister at work here.
That's kind of my theory
feeling
as well. Yeah, I don't know how true that is, but that was kind of like the impression I got reading that article. Shall we go on to the next story, or do you want to talk more about Dune and Oppenheimer, as you call him?
Jason's all about the P words and Mike Johnson. That's all he cares about.
Whoa. I don't know if anybody wants to be associated with being all about the P words. Good Lord. Kurt.
It's my favorite Puff Daddy song.
Kurt, which P word are we talking about?
Presbyterians.
Okay. Second Boeing whistleblower dies suddenly.
Oh yeah, this is weird, huh?
So, a former quality auditor at Boeing supplier Spirit Aerial Systems, who was among the first whistleblowers to allege Spirit leadership had ignored manufacturing defects on the 737 MAX, died on Tuesday. This is the second one. He was only 45.
I don't really know what to say about this, because it seems insane to me. Like, I understand. To me, it makes sense that, like, there's a lot of weird stuff about the Clintons. And when you're in certain positions of, like, extreme power, you can negotiate, how billions and trillions of dollars are funneled to the federal government. I can understand that you have pressure sometimes from outside influences to off somebody. So I can imagine that happening in that kind of a case. And I understand how big of a company Boeing is. But this seems... I mean, do you really think... I don't know. It just seems crazy to me that Boeing would just, like, a guy that was just, like, saying bad stuff about them to make them look bad. To me, executing somebody for bad PR seems too far. That wasn't supposed to rhyme.
Well, do you want my my opinion on this?
I do.
Oh, Chris seems to think
I totally believe they're capable of doing that.
Yeah, that's a
wait. I just want to say one more thing about the Nickelodeon thing. Just one more thing. I hate to go back
sorry.
to,
I didn't.
What did I
But,
say? No rules for.
Here's the thing about the
advice for
Nickelodeon thing. People can make a documentary so convincing that it'll make people think that documentary is 100% accurate.
1,000%.
Like, let's take Al Gore's movie about climate change.
Mhm.
When that movie came out, he made $1
A
billion
BS
off
truth?
of it.
Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
So
And
people got to be
actually,
very
the guy in
wary
the
about.
company-
Yeah, they got to be very wary about these documentaries. Like, they are very convincing at times. You got to go out, do your own research, and just not believe everything that you watch or see.
Jason,
until you
Jason,
figured it out.
I want to support what you're saying by telling you that I had a course. This was a university course. It's at the University of Westminster in the UK. I was in England for a year. And I had a course with one of the top documentary film theorists alive, right? He's like one of the two guys that has essentially written the book on documentary filmmaking theory. You know, if you're an academic and you want to study documentary filmmaking, you read this guy's books. And this guy essentially presented the case to us as students, which, by the way, I wrote a very extensive report contradicting everything he believes. to which his student teacher, or whatever it is, you know, his teaching assistant, TA, gave me like a failing grade. And he actually went back, to his credit, he went back and changed the grade to a passing grade, but only barely. I assume because I just, criticized everything that he was saying to us. But he presented us over the course of several weeks, that I was in this class, the case that nothing that we perceive in reality is necessarily accurate, because it's all from our own perspective. And once you put a camera on something, then it really gets distorted. So his perception was, because you can never express the truth in a documentary perfectly, you shouldn't try to express the truth at all. Rather, you should just tell the story that you want to tell and document things that will support what you're trying to say. So what he was doing was he was creating this rule, I guess you'd call it, that documentaries should never try to tell the truth, but should just try to tell whatever story the documentarian wants to tell, which could very well be a lie. In fact, is almost necessarily going to be a lie if you're not trying to find the truth. And I presented the case that, well, of course you should try to find the truth, you idiot. Like, even though you can never get to the truth exactly, maybe, you should at least try. You should try to tell the truth through your documentary.
You could say the same thing about journalism.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's called journalistic integrity, because a documentarian is essentially the same thing as a journalist. So
basically, he's saying make propaganda.
Make propaganda. That's exactly what his theory was. I'm telling you, kids get taught.
What's the blonde?
Kids get taught in school. Kids get taught in school by these top-level professors, these very important people, supposedly, to lie and to create propaganda. That's what I'm saying. I experienced it firsthand. Yes. I was given a failing grade for not agreeing with it, which was then, to the credit of this guy, a barely passing grade, changed to it. Anyway, that's just, I wanted to give that, because that's a story. I don't think I've ever told that story.
He should have given you an A just
of
for
course.
having some balls. Yeah.
Yeah, probably the only one in the class.
And that could have actually been beneficial to him as an honest critique, or at the very least, something to play off of. Just like, what do you benefit from sycophants and peons saying like, oh, yes, you're so brilliant. The guy that's trying to poke holes in what you're saying, he's the most valuable person to you. You should have been the new TA, honestly.
That's the problem with today. Back in the 80s, growing up, when we used to watch a documentary, we believed it. Like those, like any documentary, we 100%. Believed it. We were like, oh yeah. Now it's just propaganda now. Nobody believes.
Do you remember those ones on the History Channel about like sci-fi stuff, like aliens and stuff? And you'd be like, I wonder if this is, or ghosts. And you'd be like, I wonder if this is real. You
guys are watching documentaries in the 80s? How old are you? Did you have a childhood? What the hell?
We're just
Well,
smart
I
like
think
that.
more,
Kurt.
more, more than
Sorry
90s
that you're
for
not.
me, but yeah, 80s too.
We were intelligent kids. You were there probably playing in the sand dunes.
playing in the sand dunes. Yes.
Anyway, okay. So back to the Boeing. Yeah. I totally believe they can do it. I think there's a lot of money
It's not,
there.
look, there's so many crazy things that I've discovered doing my show over the years. I'm not beyond believing it. Okay, it's something that I am willing to accept as true, but I'm gonna remain somewhat skeptical because it seems such an extreme thing to do to somebody just for, because I don't think the PR is as bad as that. Like the guy was a whistleblower, but it wasn't really about anything that was so significantly bad that like it was just going to destroy Boeing. You know what I mean? It's like if any of our if any of our employees say anything bad about us, executed. Like,
well, Chris,
I mean,
I just watched a documentary film the other night. I bought it on Amazon Prime, and I think it might change your mind. It's called The Equalizer 3. And after watching that, I think that Jason is definitely right. Like, this is well within the range of their capacity to believe this is an important thing to do.
Love those
They would do it. Absolutely. Yeah.
I've seen The Equalizer 2. Is The Equalizer 3 an actual film?
Yes, it's good. It's better than 2. Check it out. You want to know what's more suspect?
All the bad guys look like Jason.
In 3?
Actually, the main bad guys like the spitting image of you, Jason.
They're Russian, aren't they? Russian?
No, they're. Did you even see it? It's in Italy. The whole thing is in like Sicily.
Oh yeah,
I did see it.
That's right.
I did see it. I saw both 2 and 3. I saw both 2 and 3. It's actually pretty good. Yeah, you're right. I like both of them actually.
I like all 3, but the 1 and 2, 1 is the best. The third one is comes second. But anyway, you know what's more? You know what's more
Hold on,
suspect?
real quick. GI Jose just came in. He goes, in the military, before we accept any aircraft into our command, we inspect with a fine-tooth comb. A defect should have been discovered.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, why execute somebody over something that, you know, there's multiple layers to look for this stuff. It's not like, I don't know.
Well, look. Here's something more suspect, okay? He was in the midst of giving depositions alleging Boeing retaliated against him for complaints about quality lapses when he was found dead from a gunshot wound.
This is the previous guy, not the current guy.
Your atypical, self-inflicted.
Jason, I'm not saying it doesn't sound suspicious. Of course it sounds suspicious. That's why we're talking about it, but it just seems so crazy to me.
His claims were so baseless that he couldn't go on with this charade anymore, trying to take down this poor huge corporation that he had besmirched, and he had to end it all. Yeah.
It just it's hard for me to believe that people at Boeing would do something like this, but it's not out of the realm of, like I said, I've done so many crazy stories over the years. I'm like, I could totally believe it. I don't want to believe it. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah,
I
agree.
don't
Nobody
want
wants
to believe this.
Yeah, we don't want to think the world runs like that, but it's kind of scary. By the way, back to the military thing. Whenever if I take a flight, like I'm praying like my pilot is ex-military, like Air Force or something.
Right.
Because I want a freaking Air Force pilot with experience flying my plane. But now with DEI,
I just want Tom Cruise because he's so hot. Or Iceman.
Yeah, Iceman. You'd be better off Iceman. Tom Cruise can't reach the pedals.
True that. And not Goose. Goose is he's a little weird. It's a bit too silly for my taste.
Okay, so move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, so Joe Biden, 81, declares U.S. ally Japan xenophobic, along with Russia and China. Japan is xenophobic, as well as Russia and China. President Joe Biden, 81, declared Wednesday in an unprecedented statement. What a way to treat your
You know what's
ally.
really-
Like that's
You know
incredible.
what's really weird about this? I know. Why would you say something? Because the reason here's the crazy thing. He says that the reason that their economies are having trouble at the moment is because of them being xenophobic. That has nothing to do with any kind of economic problems that they might have. And certainly our economic progress in America is not because of diversity or illegal immigration, you old moron.
I don't believe it for a
But
second. Joe Biden
I
said
will-
xenophobic. Do we have this on record?
He might have said something more like xenophobic, but but the White House transcript probably says xenophobic. Look,
Fair enough.
the funny thing about what he's saying is that what he's saying is actually true. What he's saying is actually true. I don't think it has anything to do with their economy, but these countries do protect their culture. They do protect their in a way that
Japan
I think
had
is
a
actually
long period in history of being completely closed off from society.
that actually did hurt them to some degree. When they were completely closed off, it reduced their ability to technologically advance, which was
The
obviously a
haircuts
huge problem.
suffered dramatically. Have you seen the artwork from that era? It's just like, nah.
Yeah. So
Take
you're sticking
yourself
with the
down
bowl
to a-
cut, huh?
Well, not only that, it's sort of like the clean around, just like the top ponytail. Just like nobody needs that.
Are you talking about the samurai look?
Yes, the samurai look. It was good they got rid of that. The bowl cut's an upgrade, frankly.
The bowl cut is an upgrade. For more racist Asian jokes, watch Toxic Masculinity every Monday and Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. So anyway,
Coming from the Asians.
coming primarily from Kurt, yeah. But look, I actually, I know a little bit about these countries, and it's true. But here's the thing. In fact, I think in a lot of ways this is beneficial to their countries, being a little xenophobic, as we call them, right? I'll give you a great example. I don't remember whose show I was talking about. This might have been on our show. I can't remember. But in Israel, did we talk about this last time? In Israel, they will actually. We did. Okay. So I'm just going to say it again. I don't care. They will actually profile you as you come into the airport. And if you look Arab, or if you have an Arabic name, they'll stop you and they'll check you for like bombs and stuff.
Good luck, Jason.
And ever since they
Trip's
started
off.
doing that, Jason and I are in trouble. But what'll happen is they'll and the thing is, like, ever since they started doing that, no bombings at their airports. And it's like sometimes that kind of stuff, that's the thing. The reality is that the world is sometimes an ugly place, and you've got to accept those ugly realities. And in America, we like to think, black people don't commit any more crime than white people. Yeah, they do, actually. They do. They actually do. And so if you got police officers and you want them to more effectively police, you should probably put them in the neighborhoods where most of the crime is being committed, right? And if they see somebody who looks like a thug, maybe they should stop that thug. And if you got this, like, white guy in a suit and tie driving a Porsche, probably not a criminal. Maybe a white-collar criminal, but you're probably not going to catch him just by searching his car. You know what I mean? So, like, if you see a guy who looks like a drug dealer, probably you should stop him. And if he's black, you shouldn't just like go, oh, well, I can't stop him because, I don't want to be racially profiling. Sometimes these kind of ideas actually work that we think of currently as racist. We've been brainwashed into being like hypersensitive over this crap. And it's like
Adam Carolla would call it chick think, where
it is chick. Oh, that's so brilliant. That's so
don't
brilliant.
hurt- and,
I actually
like,
tweeted the other. I just tweeted like.
Who cares if we let a murderer walk free? The real concern is hurting someone's feelings.
Yes,
Just like
that's the thought process of the single women of the left that control that whole voting block.
Jason,
I actually tweeted
feel free to disagree with me, Jason, but I feel like the impulse that I have is that when we sort of go like, like throw your hands up, embrace the nihilists, let it all burn. It's because it's sort of like the frustration of the heterosexual like white man or just man in general, just a man, to be like, okay, we created a society for you people to live in, and if the women are going, you know what, like we're just gonna like, you know, flagrantly like disregard the safety and security of the society. Part of us wants to say, okay, well, let's take away that safety and security, and then let's see how well off everybody is. Because society doesn't benefit men. It benefits everyone else.
Yeah, it does. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, like
Hold
if
on,
the
hold
world
on.
goes in,
I want to just interject real quick with it, because I just stumbled upon this tweet as I was trying to look at my old tweet, which I do want to throw in here. But Mark Hamill has lost his mind.
oh, please don't do the tweet that he said today. Please.
He just tweeted. This is 6
gotta
hours
burn
ago. He
this.
tweeted.
Don't give him the publicity.
This is insane. He wrote, "May the second Biden administration be as productive and successful as the first."
He turned to the
This is
dark
just-
side.
No, that's just trolling. He's just trolling now.
That's insane, right? That's insane.
We
Wait,
have,
so
we
I wrote.
have, we have
That's a
the
good point,
actor.
actually.
We
That's a
have
good
the
point,
actor that was
actually.
the ultimate boys idol when growing up. Now
Yeah.
he's just such a
Yeah.
total girl. It's not even funny,
It's
man.
very sad, isn't it?
No.
It's
Okay, I'll
very sad.
say two things on this. First of all, actors are
Yeah.
just actors. Actors are not role models. Actors are not the people that portray. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger.
But you still
He's not the
want them to
Terminator.
be as
Yeah.
cool
Yeah.
as you think they
I
are.
wish Schwarzenegger was actually Conan the Barbarian, but he's the guy that says "F your freedom" when they're handing out jabs. That's
Look,
who he
actors in
actually
the
is.
Garrett, I have to disagree with actors in the past kept their mouths shut because they didn't want to be portrayed as something that they really are. Like they want to keep their
You good,
their
Jace?
persona
Oh, is it him? I thought it was me.
about them.
Okay.
You know that they're
Yeah,
leading
Jason's losing it.
actors and they're men. You know, and you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Look at somebody like
I'm back.
Yeah, you're back now. Look at somebody like who was Moses?
Tom
What's
Cruise.
his name? Charlton Heston.
Tom
Look
Cruise.
at Charlton. Look at
Oh, yeah.
look at Charlton
You can
Heston.
have my rifle
Charlton
and you pry it
Heston.
out of my cold dead hands. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was a role model. That was a guy
Yeah.
you could want to. In Clint Eastwood,
Schwarzenegger's role
was
model.
pretty
He
much-
was Schwarzenegger's idol.
Yeah.
and Schwarzenegger
movies.
was actually a kind of a badass in the '80s. He was kind of a guy you could look up to back when he was an actual conservative, and then he kind of dropped that.
He became a political
Gorka
animal.
has Gorka has texted me about this specifically about Hamill.
Please.
He sent me a picture of the milk drinking bit from the new
but
Star Wars movies.
Jason,
But
I'm hearing this quote for the first time. I didn't hear anything about this because I thought Hamill
Kurt,
was on the right
I'm in the middle
track.
of something. Can you not hear me?
Okay. Well, you wait there, and then you can be at the end. Well, Hamill was like talking about how he didn't like The Last Jedi, the portrayal of Luke. He seemed like
a delay
he
or
was,
something. I don't get it.
Okay, well,
I'm literally in
go
the
ahead.
middle of saying something. You jump in. So Gorka has sent me this image of Hamill drinking the milk, and he's written here, Hamill came after me when I was in the White House. Like I assume on Twitter he's talking about. And he says he's such a deranged loser. I don't even know if I want to read this other part. He goes, he needs to stick to green titty milk.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry,
You know-
go.
Yeah.
No, I
Before-
apologize. I thought he was just sending you the picture. I didn't realize there was a quote to come along. I should have known better. But yeah, Hamill was outspoken about not agreeing with The Last Jedi, which I think is the reason that the ill-advised Han Solo prequel, whatever movie, tanked. It was because of The Last Jedi. The fans walked away at that point. But yeah, it's like, okay. Thank you, Jason. I'm hearing this quote for the first time now, so I had like the knee-jerk reaction, and then Jason was saying like, "Well, maybe he's saying it ironically." I'm just like, "Okay, well, now you got the Sebastian Gorka quote. I don't know what to believe. It's all just coming at me so hard and fast."
No, he's out there. Like, but I think this is just trolling. I really think this is trolling. And like we were saying, like you take actors like Tom Cruise, Sylvester Stallone, like Tom Cruise. Come on. You don't hear crap like this from him.
You know what I think is really weird is you got like Rob Reiner and Mark Hamill. You got these guys in Hollywood that are so hardcore left. And I wonder what that's about. I know these guys have these massive egos. You know what it might be? It might be that, we got another super chat in here that I'll read in a second. Thank you, Legalize Adulthood. I'm going to jump on that right away. But it might have something to do with, like, I know somebody like this. I know somebody who's in like his 60s. He may or may not be related to me. I'm not going to say who it is. And this guy will like literally text me crap from the news about Donald Trump. And I used to send him stuff back debunking these articles. But like he's so indoctrinated. And it doesn't have anything to do with logic or reason or rationality or facts or anything like that. It has everything to do with him being so damn stubborn for having voted Democrat his whole life. And he just does not want to believe that his whole life he was wrong.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
Politics.
Agreed.
And this guy has such an ego problem because this guy was very, very high IQ. This person that may or may not be related to me, very, very high IQ guy. And when he was younger, he wasn't able to achieve the success that I think he wanted to achieve because he could have been like a great chemist or he could have been a great physicist, but he ended up working as a pharmacist, which is a good job. But I don't think it's anything like what he expected because I think everybody kind of expected him to be like a genius, like, you know, some kind of like great person that changed the world. And it never happened.
Well,
so I feel
for him.
I think he associates his value with his political views. Like, this is what I have believed for this many years. And if I'm wrong about this, Gorka says he is not trolling. Gorka says this guy is a true blue Democrat. But the thing is, I think it's more than just I'm a Democrat and I believe all this stuff. I think it is a coping mechanism for your beliefs being challenged. And leftists have their beliefs challenged every single day. It's in their face because it's obviously BS. And if you believe this fantasy, this fictional version of the world that's obviously BS, it's got to be hard every single day trying to fight against that. So no wonder they fight with such ferocity, some of these guys. 100%. So I think some of the more hardcore guys like Rob Reiner, like Mark Hamill, I do think that they are fighting against their own impulse to recognize that they're wrong.
You can almost
really
sort of like
draw,
you know what
parallel.
You know what, Chris? 100%, Chris. I agree 100%. And go ahead, Kurt. Go ahead. I lost my thought.
You want to read this legalized adulthood
to me all the time? No, he said Kurt. Slow your roll.
I didn't realize you actually had something to say. I thought he was just being generous.
It happens occasionally. Now I forgot too. Jason, go ahead. No, I'm just kidding. No, I actually did forget. Chris, go ahead.
So, all right, Legalize Adulthood comes in with $50. Thank you so much, Legalize Adulthood. And he writes, Joe Biden, 81, declares 12-year-old Japanese girls xenophobic because they won't let him sniff their hair.
Yeah, that's good.
He says, Trump 2020, Trump 2024, baby, let's go.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Thank you for reminding me, Legalize Adult. So that's what makes him so mad about Trump, because he brought their worldview out in the open that it was just complete crap, you know. And I think that's why they have such a hate for Trump, because it's exactly what you say, Chris. I agree with you 100%. You got it on the point.
What was his point?
All right, now my point is that these people are trying desperately not to have been wrong their whole lives. They just really don't want their worldview to like crumble down around them. So they're trying to just like prop it up.
They hate Trump for that.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Now I've reclaimed my point. So let me make a move. Don't let anything disrupt my train of thought because it's so tenuous. But yeah.
So Chris, back to the
not funny.
Brown person, speak when you're spoken to. No, please come on.
Oh no,
you bastard! You got
because
me.
You talk too much. Get to your point.
No. You can. Yeah, it's my own fault. but you can sort of like draw a parallel with like people that are like drug addicts or alcoholics, something like that, where it's like you have to hit rock bottom. Where there are some people, and we have these people that are like leftists with intellectual curiosity, and they're like, oh, you know, like, yeah, you know, the right is full of crap. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to like do the best expose ever on X, Y, or Z. And they do the research and like, holy crap, the right is right. The left is just like, once I did the research, I realized that I was wrong. The facts are on their side. But you have these guys that are so entrenched in the ideology, the quintessential identity politics, where just like, I'm a leftist first. That I identify with this group. That
they're addicted to identifying as a Democrat.
It's their culture. It's their religion, as you like to draw the comparison to sometimes, Chris. And when they really need, they're not going to wake up. They're not going to change their lifestyle. They're not going to change who they are without it. Without like, it's such a I can't think of the right word, but it's such a huge shift for them that they will fight to preserve the delusion.
Yep. All right. Well, we're running out of time here, Jace, because
Stephen Thompson.
I've got to run.
Sorry, I forgot to give you
Stephen Thompson. I got a game for you. Every time somebody interrupts somebody, take a shot.
Yeah.
Stephen Thompson.
You're gonna get drunk pretty quick. Listen, I'm running out of time here because I do have another show to do, another live stream with Daisy Cousins. I don't know when that's going to air, but I'll let you guys know. And but we happen to
making shows. Why are you making shows while we have our show? Scheduling shows like that.
What are you talking about? We're just wrapping up. What are you talking about? We're gonna bring her on Monday.
I see.
She's gonna be our first
when we're 45
guest.
minutes over and my phone's about to die, then I'm the a-hole.
Oh, gee.
But when you have a hard out at the exact moment the show's going to end, it's just like, Chris is busy man.
And that's why I am Mr. Reagan.
Okay. One more, and then we're good.
One more. 8 minutes. No waiting.
One more. We have a few minutes, so one more. We're gonna go with the X post. Now, here's something you don't see every day. At the University of Alabama, both pro-Trump students and Hamas demonstrators are chanting F Joe Biden. It's amazing what brings people together. All it took is hating Joe Biden's guts.
Yeah. This is actually pretty good. I will go ahead and play this. If I can find it. Yes. Hold on.
Yes, excellent. Demonetized.
But come on, how funny is this? We got the Trump supporters over here. We know they're going to say that. We got the pro-Palestinian leftists.
They're going in sync, right?
Absolutely. You love to see it, man. You just love to see it.
Who would have thunk? Brandon brings unity.
Brandon brings unity. Look, this actor did send me one more message. I said, I feel like this, is very unfair to Dan. The actor that we were talking about, the guy that was running Nickelodeon, whatever. And he gave me a thumbs up and wrote yes. So people who know him do seem to think this is a bit unfair. Stop interrupting, says Bermuda Rectangle. Give us $2 to stop interrupting.
You hear that, Jason?
I'm sorry, Bermuda Rectangle. It's never going to happen. This is the show. I'm sorry.
Well, according to Chris, I'm on a slight time delay, so.
I thought it was obvious that I was continuing with that text message, and you just started going, and I was like, "Hold on, I'm not done." You're like, "I don't care if you're not done, Cold."
It was my fault for thinking you would ever stop ever. I apologize.
No, yeah, I don't. You should know. You should know better. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on that bombshell, Kurt, do you have anything to say about the "Let's Go Brandon" chanting?
I think it's wonderful when a plan comes together.
I don't know if it was planned, but if it was, well done, counter deep state. I do think we should develop a counter deep state.
The shallow state.
There's a lot to talk about there.
I don't think that that's a good term for it. The honest state. The patriot state. Something like that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with the show. Yeah, look, it wasn't the best one we ever did, but it was okay. You know, we got some good points out there. Kurt made me laugh for sure.
Don't give them more to work with than they have already. Honestly,
I know. Look, you guys like to give us crap, and I'm kind of okay taking it if I'm honest. Call me masochistic. I'm all right with it. You guys want to send nasty, horrible tweets our way and criticize us for interrupting? You know what?
Any of the fans of the show, feel free to clip that of Chris saying, "I'm okay taking it," and use that.
Whoa! Or clip that of Kurt saying it. Jerk face. Yes.
We're not scripted. We're real. We're just a bunch of guys talking.
Yes.
Yeah, which is why no one respects us. All right.
Jerk face. That's the insult of the century right there.
That is.
That's like
I am a grown child.
That brings me back to like early '90s kids movies. Yeah,
that's
face.
That's like a pony soldier insult. Jerk face, pony soldier.
Is that a classic Joe Biden? Yeah,
that's right. When I run for president, that's what I'm going to call my constituencies.
They're a bunch of fake face jerking pony soldiers.
Whoa! I didn't say that. That sounds vulgar, Kurt. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Well,
I
the beholder.
I don't want to know where you're face jerking. All right. Right into the eye of the beholder. Obviously, you didn't understand where I was going with that. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Sorry. My apologies.
Yes.
Your genius is lost.
All right. Well, on that absolutely vulgar and disgusting series of comments and jokes, we will end the live stream now, and I will go on to the other live stream, which will be broadcast at some time in the near future. And we will see you guys on, what day is it today? Thursday, right? Yeah. We'll see you guys on Monday, and hopefully we'll have Daisy Cousins on as a guest, and maybe we'll be more polite with a woman around. We'll find out.
For once, Jason won't be the prettiest one on the podcast, and I frankly looking forward to it.
Kurt has always enjoyed stories of pretty 14-year-old boys. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. And on that, you can join me on my next podcast. Don't go to Chris's one. Go to my 14-year-old boy one. You have a lot more fun there.
Yeah. It's called Straight from Prison with Kurt Franklin.
Right. Gorka will be watching.
Everyone will be watching, Kurt. All right. Later on, guys. We'll see you guys on Monday.